I'm so excited to have Peachie Thompson with us today as we're going through the death care post administration side of dealing when someone passes away. What are the administrations? What are the things? One of the biggest ones is insurance. And today, Peachie's going to be breaking down for us exactly what that looks like for a family, what is maybe the first steps that they take, how they would actually get the death benefit from any insurance policies that they may carry. So without further ado, Peachy, I would love if you can share with everyone a little bit about yourself as we get into today's conversation.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. It's always nice to chat with you. My name is Peachie Thompson for the listeners. I am the owner and founder of Peach Insurance Services. Uh, this will be my 28th year in the industry, and Peach Insurance Services serves clients nationwide. And we do life insurance, long term care, disability insurance, and annuities. So, pretty
You
much in a
bring a
nutshell, that's what it
yes.
is.
You bring a wealth of experience, and you've shared with us in the past all of your experience as a young career in the career, and you bring so much value here. So I appreciate you coming back on and sharing us this side. So as I've been having these working through the post-death administration side of things, these are the things that nobody really talks about. We get the insurance policy. We understand, okay, if I pass away, this is going to happen. But obviously, the individual is no longer with us, right? That actually took out that policy. And then the beneficiaries or the heirs are the ones that are kind of sorted with what do I do? How do I, where do I even start? So, what do you, in your maybe in your experience, where do you see beneficiaries or heirs like connecting with you, or where do they even start when with insurance after someone passes away?
Yes. So, um, 28 years in this business, I want to tell you a little bit about how my first claim went. Right.
Mm,
So it's interesting. We talk about new business, we write insurance, life insurance, annuities. And to your point, not a lot of people actually talk about what really happens, what these insurance policies are for.
mm,
And to me, I started in the business as an underwriter, and really I wasn't as client facing in the beginning. Although I did get my license immediately after I started in the business, but when I really appreciated what insurance agents do was the day that I had to process a claim.
mm.
And both ways, I process the first time I process an annuity claim, a death claim for an annuitant, and then a death claim for a life insurance policy were two different things. I that day that I actually was talking to a beneficiary, so we had a client pass away. It was an annuity. Okay, so we can start with an annuity. The eldest of four kids called my office at that time, and she was saying to the receptionist that her mom passed away and she didn't know what to do. She didn't know if she needed to call the insurance company or what she needed to do. And we were the agent of record for her mom's policy. So the first thing that any brokers who are legitimate, of course, would you feel bad, right? You hear someone die naturally. You're like, I'm so sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss. And after that, the first thing that the broker really checks out is this person a legitimate beneficiary? Because at the end of the day, the insurance company will only pay to the legitimate beneficiary or beneficiaries, right? So in this situation, we knew the client, the children of the client. So it was easy for us to just say, okay, really sorry to hear about her passing. Here's what we need to do. And generally, what happens is your broker, although you can also call the insurance company, but if you have a good relationship with your broker is your first call. right?
Okay.
Kind of like what my client did, our client did. And what we do is we help them through the process. Most insurance companies would require their own death claim forms to be completed, and that has to be fully completed. Uh, they would also require a copy of the death certificate. Obviously, we need proof that the annuitant or the life insurance insured passed away. So, generally, those two things are your most common items that the insurance company would need. So, to answer your question long windedly, right, is you can call your broker, right? The broker should be able to help you from start to finish. In our situation, we got the paperwork, we called the insurance company for our client. I did that personally at that time. I wanted to make sure that I was overseeing that department, but this was a very important client. We had four beneficiaries because there were four kids, and the annuities that were going to be paid out was close to $1 million. So we had to split those among the four beneficiaries. And before I delve into the next part, we touch base into how we need to, how we get the money, right? Because and you didn't ask this question, I'm kind of jumping, right? Because once you get the process started, the process, you get a claim form to the insurance company, you get the death certificate, they approve it. And then the next question is when you're completing that, actually, when you're completing that death certificate or that claim form, and you're matching it with the death certificate and sending it to the insurance company, you need to properly fill out how you want the money to be disbursed to you as a beneficiary. And I can talk about that
Mm-hmm.
as well.
So what, real quick, so in this
Mhm.
personal case, you were the agent for the family, right? And so the family must have had a close relationship with you that the daughter felt to just contact you directly. If it's not as close of a relationship, or where are typically people finding this information? Is it just like in your file cabinet, or if you had an estate plan, it would be listed, or you would have to find the actual policy to get the information to be able to even start the claim, right?
Yeah, good question. So most people notify their attorney. For example, if they did an estate plan, the attorney usually knows who to contact. We have this policy or annuity with XYZ insurance companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if they have a trustee that they know is going to be the executor of their estate, or whoever they trust at their death. Normally, those people would know. Where it becomes very challenging is if nobody knew any of these things existed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what do you do, right? So I've had people come to me and say, how do I find out if my mom has some sort of annuity or life insurance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there is actually a website that you can
Is
look at. You can plug in some information, and in fact, I have that on queue for my you'll s- I'll, you can find it on my blog next week. I think it's on queue next week or this week. I don't remember, but maybe by the time this recording goes out, I'm not sure when, but it
Yeah.
will be on my blog, and I have the link there to help people look for existing insurance. Now, the insurance company would only process a legitimate claim. So if you're not the beneficiary, it will be very difficult. But at the very least, you can kind of find out if there's some sort of policy for mom or dad. So
And
that
is
is
that's regulated throughout the country, like no matter what insurance, life benefit or annuity you would have would be registered on that website, or?
it's not encompassing everything, although it is something. If it falls under, I believe it's the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. I believe that they have that database together. It could still be a work in progress as we have this interview, but like I said, I have it on queue, so I'll have more details on that because although it's not new, it's something that wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't something that most agents would even know, right? Because they just, let's just face it, there's a lot in this industry. There's a lot of agents who come and go. They come, they sell, and they never really are around for the claim, um, for their policies, for the insurance claim,
Mhm.
right? So, for
Right,
people
that's
like
what
me,
I think. Yeah, that's what I think. Like, I'm thinking about when I took out my insurance policy, like, I don't even talk to that guy. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I
So
don't have a relationship with him, any further. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess, I have like a file folder of my, that
yeah,
nobody,
so oh,
so it's like there's this policy there. So I would assume, like, I'm thinking they would just call probably the insurance company directly. I don't think
yes,
that they would. Yeah.
yes. Yes,
Okay.
they can call the insurance company directly as well if they have some idea that, oh, mom or dad has a policy with XYZ insurance company, and they will have, customer service folks are trained in asking the right questions to make sure that you are entitled to the information. If you're not, if they sense that, okay, there's really no legitimate connection with this person just trying to fish some information, you will not get any information. So, and that is for the protection of the insured's estate and true
Absolutely.
beneficiaries, obviously. So,
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, short answer to the question is there's claim forms and that certificate that usually you want to send to the insurance companies. And the best way to get that is either you go directly to the insurance company, um, and if they deem that you are the beneficiary, then they'll send you the most current paperwork because it does change, right? And your agent would do the same. So when my client called my office, we called the insurance company and we asked them for the claim paperwork. They verified who we were, who the client was, who the beneficiaries were that were processing the claim for. We send it to the insurance company, and generally they're very good. A legitimate claim is processed between 2 weeks to 60 days if
Mhm.
they have they need to go. It really all depends, right? So if the person, the beneficiary has the death certificate and the claim paperwork is signed, and completed in the best way, because that's usually where we run into delays, is the form is not completed properly. So if you complete it properly and you have a legitimate death certificate, you send that to the insurance company, they generally, and you can put an EFT form so they can wire the money into your account instead of mailing a check, then it helps a lot to get
Mhm.
your claim process.
What is on that death claim form? Is there anything,
Yeah, it
you
varies in per insurance company, but generally it's going to ask for the insured's name, the policy number, your name, your social security, if you have the insured social security, the date of birth. So basic information of the insured, basic information of the owner of, because sometimes they could be different, and your information as the beneficiary, what your relationship is, and so on and so forth. It will ask you also what kind of payout you want. Now, do you want a lump sum, meaning like a one time payout, right? So if it's $1 million, and if your insurance life, let's say it's life insurance, and it was designed properly, and I say that it has to be designed properly, it's what is tax free, right? If you want, if it's an annuity, for example, you have other options other than lump sum. Sometimes you're the beneficiary, and your accountant says you can't receive $1 million this year, right? Why not? Well, because your tax bracket is going to be, it's going to kick up really high, right? So sometimes you have to, and I always say this, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer. So what I always say is you have to consult with your accountant. And some accountants, I would say most accountants that I know would say, let's plan on how we receive this money, right? So there are beneficiaries that they don't need the money,
Hmm.
and getting a big lump sum in any tax year might put them in a higher bracket, therefore cost them some money, because they're still getting the uh, death benefit, right? So, but sometimes you have to plan it out. So there's ways to maybe annuitize it. If you're the spouse, for example, if it's not mom and dad, so if it's your spouse, if it's an annuity, then you can probably continue if you wish the annuity for yourself. So then spouse died, you can continue. You can basically have the annuity for yourself. Or if it's mom and dad, for example, mom or dad, uh, then you can say, I want my proceeds one time, or I want my proceeds spread out over 5 years, or whatever it is that you wish. So those are the types of information that will be on a claim form.
So it sounds like it's pretty flexible in how they disperse it. Is it really customizable to what you literally say? Can you say that you want a disbursement as much as, spread this out over the next 5 years, or I mean, can
Yeah,
you?
so there is, it's not super flexible. They will give you options though, so that will depend on the insurance company and the type of product that's purchased. So that's why it's important when you contact the insurance company and you get the claim form, it will spell it out there. These are the options. How would you like your payout to be? So then you'll see, go check a box on what that is. But those are the general options that I gave is usually, you get a lump sum, you get a
Is there
5 year payout.
anything on that death claim form that would like deny your claim or would put the inheritance or the benefit in jeopardy?
Yeah, so all insurance policies, life insurance, have a contestability period, for example. So it's 2 years, right? And if an insured passes away within 2 years, then there's some delay because the insurance company can raise questions. They can contest. That's why it's called contestability period. They can contest the claim. So here's what I say to all my clients, right? So when you're buying life insurance, especially, you have to be truthful. You can't think that just because you got away, let's say you got an insurance policy put in your life, you think you're skating free and clear. No. If you lied on that insurance application and you passed away within the contestability period, the insurance, that's fraud, right? So then the insurance company can contest that. So yes, you may not care because you're dead, right? But your beneficiaries would care.
What kind of lies are we talking about here?
So if you omitted some sort of health condition, for example, so there's a lot of uh, right now the industry has changed since 2020. We have accelerated underwriting processes where you just do a phone interview. You don't even give lab work. They do a prescription check, and sometimes they check some of your medical records, sometimes maybe not. Then they approve you, right? So they go by what you tell them, right? So most of the time, most people are not, they don't lie. I shouldn't say that. There's some liars, but most people go buy insurance thinking, oh, I love someone that I'm leaving behind, right? That's the motivation. You're
Right.
not gonna buy insurance, especially life insurance, if you don't care about anybody else.
Right.
You
But
just you just don't.
with life insurance, your body is progressing obviously from the day that you bought the policy and then your current health. So how does that factor?
So the day that you sign, this is why it's important to buy the life insurance policy when you're young and healthy,
Hmm.
because you can truthfully answer the application on that day.
Mm-hmm.
So, to give you an example how this works in real life, I had a client, super young, 25 years old at that. Actually, no, she was 23 years old at that time. We got her what we call super preferred rates, which was a superwoman rate, very cheap. She was young. She got approved, and she kept pushing it and pushing it. And she said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go on vacation. I'll just keep pushing it and ignoring the agent, right?" This is actually my client. So we got her approved around Thanksgiving. Come December, nothing. January, nothing. February, nothing. March, I get a frantic call. End of March. Oh, yeah, I would like to place a policy in force today. I want to pay everything, so on and so forth. So then, why? What changed from January, December,
So
even
what?
November? What do you think changed? Okay. So she went to the doctor. And in March, a couple of days before that phone call to me, she was diagnosed with a tumor in her brain
Oh
at
my
23, at
gosh.
23 years old. So
Oh,
at that time, not only did we lose the offer, right? If we get her insurance, and she's lucky, it wasn't a bad tumor, it was a good kind of tumor, could be removed and it's fine. We can never get the super preferred, meaning the cheapest offer ever, ever. And she cannot go and apply for an insurance policy the next year and say, oh yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I have nothing wrong with me. Because guess what? If she died, so fast forward, let's say she said, no, I'm perfectly fine. Nothing's wrong with me. And then she actually got approved and the policy was in force. So she pays the policy premium for a year and then she dies a year and a half later. Bam. So that's within the contestability period. So therefore, the insurance company can contest the claim. They can do their investigation. They can look at her medical records, and they will see that she was diagnosed in March, and then let's just say she put it in force at the end of March or beginning of April, and she knew that, and she will sign a thing that says I nothing has changed on my health, and that right there, it's fraud, right? You can't do that.
in those
So
cases, they would just completely deny the claim.
they could, yes, they'll just fraud, they'll absolutely deny the claim. It's fraud is fraud. You don't get that.
Yeah.
um
Do you
if
think,
it's a mistake.
what do you think about the smoking one? Because I know they always ask that,
Yeah,
are you a smoker? And then
yeah,
what if people say no, they're not a smoker, and then they pass away, is that something that they're gonna go back and say, was this guy smoking a cigarette before he died or something? Or
yeah. So smoking is very it's that's actually one of the most common things, that people
lie
think, oh, we
about,
could
right?
get away with it. So when you say I'm not a smoker, so sometimes the insurance company would ask for lab work, right? And your lab work would show that. If you're a smoker, it would show it. If you don't disclose it and you died out of some sort of pneumonia or something that's related to your lungs, a COPD kind of thing, emphysema, so on and so forth. Like it's related to that, right? So by the way, during claim time, there's also an underwriter that could get pulled in. So that underwriter would make the decision on whether or not this is a legitimate claim. Is the actual health condition that killed the person, was it material? We call it material, enough to change the policy. Meaning, would we have offered at that time had we known that the client was a smoker, right? And now he passed away of, something in this anything to do that's related to smoking or whatever that is, right?
Mhm.
Um, the best case scenario is okay that you have a non-smoker rate, um, that you keep paying for, and then you don't pass away. That's anything to do with it, right? So could you be found? Nobody knows.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
it's 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 hard. The rule of thumb is, and I say this, I've had clients come to me, both personal and non-personal clients, just agents clients. Agents come to me and say, "What if we don't tell everything?" I said that's a very bad idea. Very bad idea. I would rather you disclose everything up front because at the end of the day, it's insurance. It's the claim that you want to work.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you're getting away with something, don't
Peachy,
because
let me
yeah.
ask you of a not so good subject, but it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm just gonna say,
Mhm.
what happens is suicide?
So there's a suicide clause, also 2 years. They will not pay if an insured kills himself or herself in the first 2 years.
In the
Uh,
first 2 years of having the policy?
Correct.
Right. So if you got the policy 10 years down the road, you take your own life, then it would be a claim. You could potentially.
Yes, as far as it is right now, and as far as I know, and luckily, I've never had a client commit suicide. But the contestability, the suicide clause states it's within 2 years they can contest it. They will not pay. In that case, I believe they will return the premiums paid.
Okay. So that 2 years though, is it because I guess that's something I've never really understood about the insurance business is that so if you weren't a smoker when you took out the policy, but then you started smoking,
That's fine.
it's fine. So it's all
It's
about
what you
when you
signed that
take
day.
out, yeah, when you take out the policy, what you're stating.
Yes, it's all about what you stated on the day of the sign your application and paid for the first premium, because that's the thing with insurance. Once you pay that first premium and you sign the delivery document, your policy is in force. It's bound, right? And your health could change the next day without you knowing it, right? If you truthfully did not know you had cancer, and then the next day you went to the doctor, or you had a headache and you went to the doctor, so they can't rescind it. And if you were issued super preferred rates, you are super preferred, legitimately super preferred. So that's a legitimate claim, even if you pass away within 2 years because you didn't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you weren't a smoker when you put the policy in force. You were, 22 years old, and then yeah, at 23, Carolyn decided, I'm just gonna go start smoking, vaping, or whatever, because I'm bored, right? So then you have that policy. So that's why I've had clients. So how that is in practice is usually I've had clients come to me and say, "Oh, I am 45 years old now. I have kids, and I have this policy that I bought when I was in my 20s, and I'm paying a very small amount. It's like, I don't know, $20 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. Can you give me a quote, right? So the first thing that we ask is, let's talk about your underwriting, your lifestyle, and your health and your family history, and I would say that 90% of the time the health has changed from when you're in your 20s to your
Mm-hmm.
40s. Whether you're a little bit more overweight now, or there's some sort of changes in your lab work,
Right.
right? So that $20 per month that you were paying 20 something years ago is no longer, because you now have something else. But is that $20 a month changing? No, it's go as if it's we can't touch that, right? Because the insurance company can't change that because now, you're a little overweight, right? So yeah.
Right.
So it's the same idea. Like if you put the policy in force today, meaning you pay the insurance company today, and then you sign the delivery paperwork today, and then everything is in force. They received everything. They said everything looks great, and then you got hit by the bus the next day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a legitimate claim.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
how insurance works, right? You don't need to pay
mm,
20 years.
and some people never even claim on it, right? So insurance policies are 20 years and then their kids are already grown up and they say, well, heck, I don't need it anymore. That's when I took out an insurance policy when I had kids because I was like, oh, God forbid, if I pass away, then whoever has to take care of them, at least they would have something, right, to help take care of the children. So I know we kind of went off on the weeds, and it's really easy to
Yeah, I know, right?
get
We're supposed to talk about all that kind of stuff, but
so
yeah.
interesting, to unpack it. But let's go back to your talking about that story of, she called you, her mom passed away. How important is it about your beneficiaries? Because I think, me personally, being in the wellness and legacy group and learning from so many professionals now, I really see how people will name like underage, they'll name their kids and their kids are not 18, right? Could you share on that, like how that works out? If people say their beneficiaries are their children, but their children are under 18, what does that look like when they go to do a death claim?
Yeah, so that's a very personal preference, and I always say, hey, you've got to. My job is to tell you how it is, right? My job is to tell you what happens if we put uh, so and so as a beneficiary. So again, I put a little caveat that says that says you have to talk to your attorney, right? Because your attorney is the one that would help you with making sure that your estate is proper at your death. So with that said, I have seen people actually name minors as beneficiaries. How does that work? Now that's a loaded question. Depends on the state.
Mm-hmm.
What state it is in Florida, New Jersey, California. It's treated a little differently. Um, Most of the time, I personally have never had a client that has named their kid as an underage uh, child beneficiary and then had a claim. I think personally, if someone does not want to draw up a trust, because generally that's what happens. You have an insurer that says, oh, I don't want to spend the money on paying an attorney to draw up a trust, right? Because sometimes it's legitimate. It's more expensive for them to do that. They don't have a big estate. They just want a pure death benefit, um, just to help because that's all they could afford, right? So they would name, their 12-year-old or their 13-year-old their beneficiary. Now, would the insurance company, I've seen insurance company ask for the date of birth and the insurance company would not allow it, or would question like, is there a will in place? Who's the guardian, the legitimate guardian if this mom or dad were to pass away? So again, that's all, at the end I think it works out, right? Is it advisable? No, right? Because you just never know. You just
Mm-hmm.
never know. Is it, can you do it? Sometimes you can do it, right? Again, I think that's a personal preference, and some insurance company, depending on the state, would allow it, some won't. At least that's been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it boils down to some people just don't want to spend extra money
Mm-hmm.
on hiring an attorney to draw up a will when they have no little ones. But having a will is very inexpensive now. If you can't afford, not to go off on a tangent, if you can't afford a personal attorney, there's online services, right? I mean, I'm not affiliated with any of them, or I've never personally used them, but there are online services. You can draw up a will and tell your trusted person, your sister, your brother, your cousin, or your best friend, hey, I have a will. That happens, something happens, it's there.
Right.
So and so will be the guardian of my child, right? So if you happen to name the guardian of your child
Mm-hmm.
your BFF, right?
Right, right. Yeah, it's from what I've seen, it really from the real estate side, when the heirs are underage, it does present, now you have to go get a court appointed a guardian, or you have to appoint a guardian, because if somebody's in that situation, they probably don't have the will or the steps set up, so when same thing, if you go to the bank and they ask you for a beneficiary of the account, I hear that a lot. Like a lot of times when people pass away, the first place people go is to the bank, to their mom's account, to their dad's account, and then they say, oh, I'm so sorry, you're not listed as a beneficiary, right? Or if the beneficiary is underage, right, then they can't actually legally collect on that because they're underage. So it requires then a guardianship to get involved and handle everything. What about people, you talk about life insurance, some people get life insurance when they're young, and then your relationships could have changed. And what about like just the beneficiaries? Do you see that ever where beneficiaries haven't been updated and
Oh yeah, all the time. People, I think people, some people forget about they have some sort of insurance, they get divorced, or so the younger generation, the younger the younger person who bought life insurance, for example, and they weren't married at that time. Normally, they would list like a sister or a brother or a
Right.
friend or their parents, and then they get married, and then they have their own spouse now and their children, and then they forget. Right.
Mm.
So I have seen that happen in some of the agencies, when we did a policy review, and it was a bit of a shock. So that's why it's important to work with an agent that actually reviews the policies at least every 3, 5 years, right? Just to make sure, hey, anything changed with your life? Did you acquire a new spouse, acquire a new business? Did you have any life changes or whatever? So yes, it's not uncommon to see that the beneficiary is not updated, and it is actually, if you have a good financial planner or a good insurance agent, that's part of what we do, what they do, is do a policy review and check to make sure that the beneficiary is still who you want it to be.
Right, because in that case, there's no like negotiations at that point, right? Like if the
Oh no,
beneficiaries are there, the insurance company is like, that's who we're paying out. We don't
correct.
care about anything else.
Yeah, so the insurance companies would pay the legitimate beneficiary. So if you list whoever you listed there is the person who will receive the death proceeds.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right. It. So it seems if your beneficiaries are accurate and you didn't lie. You didn't lie about anything about your health or anything. It seems like a pretty straightforward, easy process. Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So that I always say that the toughest part is the underwriting, right? If you are lucky enough to get Superman rates, you told the truth, everything, and you got Superman rates, and God forbid you passed away, claim is generally paid out within 2 weeks to 60 days so far as the latest. There might be some laggers, that would pay to the 90th day, so like 3 months.
Hmm.
But generally, it's I would say the worst case scenario is you're waiting 3 months. But like I said, if you have the death certificate, you have completed the claim form properly, insurance companies are quick to process legitimate claims.
Right. And then does that also work with the funerals? Because I heard with the funeral homes, they will pay out or they'll do the funeral with getting paid by the life insurance company.
Um, you mean so have the insurance company pay the funeral homes directly?
Right.
Yeah, so some insurance companies, or more, I think more importantly, is some funeral homes, when you show them that there's a policy in
Right.
force,
That's what it is. Yeah.
they'll basically say, okay, yeah, yeah, we'll wait. So this is why, obviously death is it's a terrible thing, right? You're already the main purpose of life insurance is to ease the pain, right?
Mm,
One of the main purposes of life insurance is to ease the pain. So, and people at the home offices know that. People who are working in the claim department, at least people have who I've written insurance through and have experience processing claims, is they understand the urgency of wanting some liquidity
mhm,
uh, for exactly your point. You know, sometimes it's a funeral expense. So beneficiaries can talk to the funeral director and say, my mom has this insurance policy. It's this, you know, it's legitimate. We're just waiting for the claim to be processed and so on and so forth. And I know that some funeral homes would work with
mhm.
those as long as they can confirm that there is a legitimate policy in force. And generally, that's what happens.
Yeah, that could be a great resource because if they're locked out of bank accounts or other things, instead of coming out of pocket, if they have that life insurance policy, then they know, they can use it towards the funeral. Um,
Yeah.
what about deceased beneficiaries? Again, going back to that kind of beneficiary selection, but what about
Yeah.
if they've passed away since the last?
So, yeah, so when you apply for life insurance, or you usually would designate what we call a primary beneficiary. So that's the first person or people, right? The primary beneficiaries are the ones that will receive the proceeds first. Now, if the primary beneficiary, let's say it's only one, is not present, meaning deceased before you, there's a spot for secondary beneficiaries. So I always say, hey, if you could designate a secondary beneficiary, chances of them getting it is unlikely, but in the event that your primary dies first, it's good to have a secondary. So then it will go to the secondary. Let's say there is no secondary, and if it's a life insurance policy, then it goes to the estate of the owner. Whoever is the owner of the insurance policy, it could be different from the insured. It goes to the estate of the owner or to the, yeah.
Have you ever seen policies go through probate?
Life insurance policies, no, they don't go to probate. They go directly to the beneficiary, the proceeds. That's one of the things that insurance agents would sell you, right? Is because it doesn't. If you name
Mm-hmm.
a beneficiary, it's going to go to the named beneficiary. The creditors can't go after it.
Okay, that's
Generally, it's out of probate.
okay.
Generally, it's out of the creditor's hands. That's why it just now once it goes into your account, that's different, right? So you're the beneficiary and you have, you know, your own problems. Now that's different. That could be a little
Right.
different, right? So then I can't speak about that because that's when I say, oh yeah, you gotta find yourself a nice lawyer, right?
Yeah. So you're talking, you obviously have a great relationship with your clients, you know. I wish probably everybody wishes, they had a insurance broker like you, that was
Mm.
personable and like I told you, the guy that wrote mine, like I have no
You
idea.
don't talk to, yeah, yeah.
So
I
do
believe it.
you maybe it's common or I think now too online there's a lot of options to just what was the one that I had looked into Ethos uh
Yeah,
is a online life insurance broker. Um
yeah.
so if you don't have, those personal relationships, and is this something that when you are going to do a death claim that you could work with an insurance broker, or is it not really any benefit of reaching out to somebody at that point?
At that point, I would say that it's probably easier to just go to the insurance company because they'll work with you directly if
Mm-hmm.
you are the beneficiary.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally do not know if any agents that would, unless they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart to help a friend. Like I've helped friends, but just a stranger, coming in and not really having a relationship or whatever. It's hard to ask that from a broker because generally they probably will
Yeah.
not. They don't want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can always go to the insurance companies, and it's just It's just a little different because now you don't have anyone advocating for you, in case there's some delay, because that's what your broker should be doing. That's what we did for this example that I was talking about. Is we pushed, right? We need to make sure we got the death claim processed
Mhm.
as quickly as possible, um, because there were four children involved. Uh, it's a little bit complex because a couple wanted to delay because they didn't want the money, or they couldn't. It messes up their financial planning, and one of the kids wanted the money right away because it's not that child was not as fortunate, and they need the money. So yeah, so something like that. Um, Maybe there's some services you could, but I don't know of any services that would do that.
So basically if there's four beneficiaries, it all has to be dispersed at the same time. It can't say like, well, you are entitled to 1/4, so we can process yours. They do it. It has to be everyone at the same time in agreement.
Yeah, so with that particular annuity and insurance company that we dealt with, because it happened to be just one insurance company, but that could have been a bit more complex, could have been multiple insurance companies, right? So now you're dealing with different things. But if it was just like that, it was just one insurance company, they processed the claim, dispersed it out to four different people.
Mm-hmm.
It was processed all at once. It was processed all at the same time. Now they did have different ways that they asked for the money, and that's where we were able to negotiate per se. I don't really know if it was more of a negotiating other than those were truly their options, but we advocated for them, right, and said this is what beneficiary A wants, this is what beneficiary B wants. So can we work this out and make sure that we're doing what how they want the money disbursed to them. So like I said, this one wanted lump sum, the other child wanted a 5 year. So it was just you can have a broker on your side in that situation. But if you're unlucky, because that is, I think that's very lucky if you have a person who's helping. But if I shouldn't say unlucky, but if you don't have a broker on your side,
Mm-hmm.
might just take a little bit of guidance from at that time, whoever is managing your affairs. If you're the beneficiary, right, you must have some sort of relationship with either an insurance broker or a financial planner or an attorney that would kindly help you with those types of situations. But
Decision.
insurance companies would they normally would help. I think at least that's what my experience has been. Could be different as a consumer, but I've been doing this for so long. I talked to so many insurance companies.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Is there, landing the plane on all this, and I appreciate you, sharing it because, like, doing this whole post-death administration side of the conversations. I mean, it's definitely conversations I've never had, really how all these things roll out after the fact. We know about getting a life insurance policy, but how does it actually play out when you need it? So thank you for contributing to this and helping us understand it better. Is there any advice that you would give, when somebody's in this situation and they're doing the death claim? Is there anything that, could get them denied or can complicate the claim, or anything that you would want to share as far as best practices when, venturing into this, assuming they don't have someone as amazing as yourself guiding them along the way?
Yeah, so first of all, you hope that the insured actually was truthful with everything, so that it's a legitimate claim. And if you are a beneficiary who's lost, right? So you want to make sure you have the death certificate, because they will need proof of death, and that is the death certificate. So once you get that, you can call the insurance company and say who you are, and make sure if you don't have a policy number, at least have the social security number of the deceased person, and ask the insurance company for the claim paperwork to be sent to you, and complete that to the best of your ability. And most of those claim forms, read them because there's a lot of pages, and usually the first or the last page would tell you what's needed. So I would say that,
So
some people don't like paperwork. So ask for help with someone who's detailed and who can kind of read the stuff and make sure that it's completed properly. So a properly completed claim form with a death certificate submitted to the insurance company is generally an easy claim for them to process as. If you want to send it through trackable mail, so like a 2 day USPS, or I like UPS. They don't pay me or anything, but I like them, so yeah. Yeah,
what about when, sorry, I just got another question.
yeah.
What about if you're, don't or have communication with the beneficiaries that are on that claim? So let's say brother and sister are estranged, they're both listed on a policy as a beneficiary. Does that present a problem? Can one claim their portion and the other one just is left in the wind, or?
So the beneficiary, the claim forms would ask for all the beneficiaries. Now, if they said they don't talk, right,
Mhm.
and you're 50% beneficiary, they
Mhm.
would need a way to send the proceeds to the brother that's not signing the paperwork. So what happens then is the legitimate claim for the 50% person would be processed. And if they're not talking, then the other one is just kind of there.
Right. So they would still disperse. They're not holding, like, if one beneficiary comes forward, but the other one didn't come forward.
Yeah, if it's a legitimate claim for one beneficiary, my experience has been they will pay it. There's no reason for them to hold someone's money just because the other there's tons of insurance unclaimed property because they didn't know they were beneficiaries, right? So
Happens with all
eh, yeah, so yes, as long as your side of the claim paperwork is completed properly and you have a valid death claim and you are a valid, legitimate beneficiary, I don't see a reason why they would deny the claim or hold the claim for the other beneficiaries. So, yeah,
Mhm.
especially if it's life insurance. Now, with annuities, might be a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Peachy. Yeah, I could sit here and talk with you about it. Insurance is so interesting.
Yeah, all day. So yeah, thank you for having me. I know we're past our time here. So
Yes.
I was like thinking, oh, this is gonna be a quick one. It's death claim. It's pretty easy, and I'm like, here
Nothing
we are,
quick with Carolyn.
an hour and 15 later. So anyway,
Nothing
uh,
to do with Carolyn, but thank you, Peachy, so much. I'll be putting your link down for your blog so that people can have access to see that information about where to find, a policy. I'm sure that has to come up a lot, when someone passes away and they don't know where the policy is and they don't know if their loved one had it. So that's an invaluable resource. So we'll definitely make sure to tag your blog in here. And once again, thank you for your contribution. All of your information will be on this video. So if anyone wants an amazing insurance broker, you're looking at her right there. So thank you, Peachy, for doing this. And I'm sure we'll definitely have you back on for more of your expertise.
thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate it always.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right,
Bye.
bye.